Hello everyone. Me, Vandana, your host, is back with our next episode of RV Lounge, and after a long hiatus. Just to give you a brief of what this is all about. So the show is about learning from the masters in service industry, the unsung heroes who finally take care of the product once they are sold. It is about the work that goes at the back end to make the customer experience great. So we keep on getting new guests, and we have another one. And to tell about the guest, let me tell you about the brand first. So today, this brand is recognized as India's top consumer tech brand and has surpassed global giants like Xiaomi, Samsung to become second largest audio wearable brand after Apple in the world. Its success has redefined the hearables and the wearables market, positioning it as a brand that embodies individuality and self-expression and has placed India on the global map. Our guest today has played a pivotal role in shaping this brand into a remarkable success story with his visionary leadership and strong product expertise. Beyond his entrepreneurial achievements, he's an active angel investor, mentor, and a philanthropist. With several accreditations under his name, he has been recognized by Business Today and is part of Forbes India's Tycoons of Tomorrow list, which showcases him as one of India's top business leaders. The brand I'm talking about is BoAt, and our guest today is Mr. Sameer Mehta, the co-founder and CEO of BoAt. Thank you so much, Sameer, for being a guest in our show.
Hey, thanks, Vandana, for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to be speaking to you. And thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you. So let us start. So if you could share a brief overview of your journey and how did you envision and plan the creation of the brand BoAt?
Oh, wow. Okay, that's an interesting question. Back in 2013, right? 13, 14 is when, the overall industry started changing, right? If you look at Beats came into the market in the US and they changed the way headphones or, audio devices were being sold. Prior to that, if you look at all the incumbents were selling all boring black, or blue products into the Indian market. And along with that, not even curating any of the products for the Indian market, right? They didn't take the Indian consumers' need into consideration while building a product. And that's when me and Aman kind of came together and, we decided that, there is some possibility, there is a white space. And we believe that, there's a disruption that could come into this space. So what we did is, what we wanted to do is, curate products which are specifically made for Indians. So it could be around build quality in terms of the sound preferences of the consumer, or the call quality, or how rugged they want their products, right? So that's how we started first. We wanted to make sure that we built a product which is truly suited for an Indian audience. Along with that, what we also realized that the new age consumer and the consumer that we wanted to target was more aspirational, right? And he didn't want to use the brands that their dads and granddads have used, right? And most of these brands have been around for 60, 70, 80 years and not innovated enough, right? So we wanted to bring in something cool, something really aspirational into the brand and make it very quirky and very Gen Z millennial, right? So we added those touches of, young, edgy product on the product and also curated the product for the Indian audience. And that was the genesis of BoAt. Of course, the first couple of years were very difficult because again, we didn't have enough money. So what we ended up doing is we started distributing for a company out of the US called House of Marley. We tested their products, we bought them to India, and we realized soon as to what the consumer need is. And learnings of those were, kind of imparted on our first product, which was, a wired earphone, right? It was a very simple product that we came up with. But the two, three changes that we did on that is made sure that, the durability factor on a earphone was very, very bad at that point of time, right? What we did is we innovated there. We made sure that we made the product in a way that, even if we use it ruggedly for over a year, nothing would happen. And we came up with a 1 year warranty on those products. And that was the start of that journey. And, now the story is unfolded well for us. But yeah, that's the genesis of how the brand was started.
Amazing story in terms of, figuring out the real target audience. And I mean, and of course, the Indian need of a rugged durable product, right? With warranties, that is what, and of course the cost factor. And then how do you think the industry has changed since it has started? You're talking about 13, 14, and
Yeah.
like 10 years down the line.
Yeah, I think it's when we came into this industry also, there were over 300 odd brands, right? And every day a new brand was born born in India, because most people, kind of figured out that, they could go to China and bring in a product, right? And just to go deeper into the product and understanding the product problems, and curating again the product for the Indian audience, is not a lot of people understood, right? So along the way, we also realized that, if we want to make sure that this company is a scalable company, and, it's a multi-decadal company, right? That's what we wanted to build. So we invested actually in R&D back in 2020, when the resources were very, very scarce, right, for us, because that's the time that COVID had hit. And, we didn't even have enough money in the bank. But we knew one thing for sure, that if we didn't innovate, we're going to be like one of the other brands that have, died in the past, right? And there are so many examples in the industry. There have been so many roadkills along the way, right? And I don't want to name those brands, but most of these brands only relied on China sourcing and not understanding the tech and the expertise within the product by themselves. And that's where I think they lost the plot. We didn't want to be one of them. And so we invested really heavily. In 2020, we started our own R&D with very limited resources. We built that to a 40 people team. In 2021 or 22 sometime, we acquired a IoT company out of Singapore, which is called Kaha, where they had deep domain expertise around embedded software, hardware, algorithms, app stack, cloud stack, all of it, right? So we ensured that we put the money where, it was needed, and we started building out products which were, again, I wouldn't call them affordable, but I would call them, aspirational affordable category. And we made sure that we built the devices which were in line with the best out there in the world. But at the same time, they have been value engineered to a point where, it becomes affordable for a consumer to buy in India. So these are the things that we've taken care of while we've gone on. And the journey has become very different. Earlier it was more of, sourcing a product but making it better. Now we build everything ourselves, and then we go to our own factory in India, which is a JV with Dixon, and we build those products out there. So we're completely vertically integrated from the hardware stack all the way to the manufacturing point. And that's why we are able to offer really quality devices at great pricing. At the same time, the overall consumer experience is something that we are very, very critical about, and we keep focusing and going back to, if the consumer's experience is good, he becomes a brand loyalist, and then you don't have to spend money again and again on acquiring a new customer. So that's the way we think about everything at boAt.
Awesome, awesome. And the real made in India brand, right? Now with all the stack that you mentioned. Awesome, awesome. So I would now, want to move towards the customer experience and especially the after sales services, as the show is all about that. So, how important is it for a brand to have a good after sales services experience for its customers? What is your take on that?
See, honestly, I mean, when we talk about consumer experience, it doesn't start and stop at the product itself, right? It starts merely from the way when you open up the product, right? How do you unbox it? That's an experience, right? What do you get within the box? How is it placed? Is your product completely, protected inside the box? That's one experience. The other experience is the app experience, right? How do you onboard the person, right? How do you make that journey very frictionless, right? And then once you've sold a device, after sale becomes like a very, very big part of that consumer experience. Just imagine yourself buying a device, whatever be the price, but then you have to, run, from one place to the other to get the device replaced, right? So one thing that we're very, very clear about is, first, there should not be defects, but it's an electronic product, there will be defects, right? So how do you minimize it? So for minimizing it, we have continuously every week we understand the voice of the consumer. What is he talking about a certain product, and what are the problems, and how do we correct them, right? And that's a weekly journey for us. It's not something that we review every month. We actually do 2 or 3 calls every week to understand the voice of consumer and make the product better. And in any eventuality, if the product fails in the market, the idea is to offer the best consumer experience to the customer, right? So we have a network of service providers like yourself and others who actually allow us to, offer a great consumer experience. Along with that, we've also pioneered this whole door-to-door shipment of replacements, right? One of the things that we realize as a young consumer doesn't like to travel 30 kilometers to get a product replaced, right? So how do you make that experience also better, right? So you're sitting in your office, your device is not working, just log in a complaint onto our, on our portal. Within 2 days, somebody will come at your house, take the product, test it, replace it, and deliver it back to you in about 7 days, right? And that's something that we started. We were the first one in the country to start it. And you can do this across a 200 rupee product also. We probably end up incurring a lot more expense in terms of replacement. But once I'm able to give you that experience, again, like I said, your experience is so amazing with us that you not want to shift out of the brand. And that loyalty, right, means a lot, right? And that's how BoAt has grown. If you look at the marketing dollars in total we would have spent over the years, would be less than 1% or 1.5% of our revenue. And to create that brand affinity with that little a spend also comes with, the overall experience of the consumer being better. And after sales is also a very, very big part of that experience, right? So you can't leave out any part of the experience because the consumer is super demanding now, right? And you have to ensure that the overall experience for the consumer becomes a lot better than anybody else's, and that's where you'll create a lot of brand loyalty.
So, when we talk about so many services, but so much of effort and initiatives that you took for the customer experience, including the after sales services, so there is always a cost attached to it. Though you did mention the reduction in the cost, how did you manage that? I mean, generally, what I have seen as an after sales provider, the budgets are very less,
Right.
and that is where it starts hitting. So it is about whatever the customer experience part that you are talking about, and and the after sales services part.
This so very clearly, right? One is you got to be, we believe in top of the funnel, right? If your top of the funnel is low, which is your warranty rates are lower, you're able to offer a better service, right? Because most companies don't account or budget for a customer service as a big line item in their P&L, right? And that's where they kind of, they have a salami effect, right? And the salami effect is you take out one layer at a time and the salami disappears over a period of time, but you don't realize it, right? So you started with a full stack, great experience, and because your budgets are not there, you keep cutting it, and the customer starts realizing that, hey, earlier I used to get this, and now I don't get it, right? Like I said, again, doing the VOC, which is like we do it 3 times a week, right? Voice of the consumer, our warranty rates, our DOA rates, we triangulate all of that and ensure that the top of the funnel by itself is less, and because of which we are able to afford one. And again, as a company, we don't want any of our consumers to suffer because you are both as a brand is responsible for making a product, right? So it is our duty to ensure that we're not letting a consumer run pillar to post to get a replacement. And you have to account for it in your P&L, because if you don't, on the long term, the effects of it on your brand are so big that the cost doesn't even come anywhere close to in terms of matching the scale of brand reputational damage that you would have done on your brand and the money that you spend, right? So there's no match there. So if you want to make sure that your brand is loved, I think this is a very, very important element.
So, working with your team has been a great experience in terms of how little steps or the process changes that have happened have. I'm sure, of course, it is an effort at our end, but then it has. I'm so sure it has reduced the cost at your end in terms of, even if I say the example of defectives being picked up in certain time frames. So these were very interesting things that I learned during that phase. But any thoughts that you have for the brands, how they can connect better with their service partners? So this is one way of connecting. So it is kind of a learning, and it has been a good connect. But would you have more advice to brands on how to do all this?
Yeah, honestly, I think it's about understanding your data, right? Understanding your data, understanding your consumer pain point, right? And working with your partners to solve it. Because you guys, RV is a front end for us. We have several other front end partners. Is to understand one consumer pain point, going and discussing it back with the service providers and, working with them in terms of solving those issues, right? And tech plays a very, very big part. Like, just let me just put a number there, right? The software that we use at the front end, to service our customers. We are a scale company. We spend approximately 3 crores a year only on that software, right? To make sure that, it's a robust product where we are able to do a lot of tech changes, which kind of automates a lot of the processes. So manual work is not there, right? That's when you get the bandwidth to go back and improve your service. Because if you're stuck in operations, you're never going to improve the quality of your service. So we use a lot of tech, and we of course have great partners like you. So it always helps.
This question I always put in just because I want that mileage. So, any interesting anecdote that you would like to share?
Yeah, I'm not a big anecdote guy, honestly, but I'll tell you one anecdote. So back in, I don't remember the year, honestly, but
It's fine.
we were
It's
at
fine. We just want the story.
yeah, we were at a fair, and there was this massive booth there, right? And really, great looking products, world class booth, looked really good, right? And me and Aman, because we were so small back then, we said, "Chal, एक बार जाके देखते हैं कैसा है." So we went in there, okay, and we started talking to the guys. So the account manager came in, and then he started speaking to us, and then the owner came by, and then they realized that we were so small that they kind of said that, hey, maybe we don't want to work with you.
Oh,
Okay. So
seriously?
so they say they didn't actually, give us the time or any support in terms of building that relationship. And 6 years later, we are the biggest partners with them. Okay. We started work with them about a year ago, and we are the largest, revenue generator for that company. About 70% of their revenues are generated by boat. So, life comes around. It's a full 360, right? I think, they didn't entertain us then, but, we've been, been great partners
It's
for them, and
generous.
they've seen a lot of reward from that engagement.
Cool. That's nice. Nice. That's nice. Um, so I was talking about the tech part. Okay, that we have covered that. So, what is something everybody in your industry, as per you, they should start doing or should stop doing? Any inputs there?
Then again, not a big yarn or advice ever, but I
That's
think, be obsessed about your customer. I think, if you're obsessed about your customer, you'll curate a better product, you'll hear him, and you'll continually improve yourself, right? I think, that obsession is super important. Everything else, all right, will follow. Build a great team again, right? Because if you don't have a great team, they will not take care of your customers. So over-index on talent and be very, very obsessive about your consumers. That's the two bit that I'd, give any upcoming brand.
talking about you, what is a commonly held belief about your role right now that you passionately disagree with? Is there something here?
Passionately disagree with.
Disagree. I mean, I'm sure a lot of
Yeah.
things would be there that you would agree with.
So yeah, within the company, actually, I graduated from being a product guy to becoming the CEO. But if you ask heart and heart, I believe that I'm a true product guy. I love making products. That's my passion. It's something that, drives me. But if you ask my teams and my chief product officer, he'll be like, "नहीं नहीं ये product team का part नहीं है. He's not allowed to be here." So, that's what it is. But I do keep, going and, going into their territory and giving them advice and, doing a lot more. I don't know whether they appreciate or they don't. But, वो product का कीड़ा है मेरे में. तो, I keep doing it again and again.
So sure, कीड़ा मुश्किल से ही निकलता है. What do you wish your younger self knew about your current
Hmm.
profession, or
Younger self.
yeah, would it have changed something?
Yeah, if I look at it, I would have, solved a few problems more structurally, understand how business works, and how I can, uh, reorganize the way a business is done, right? By, cutting through, the business models, right? And, it took us a long time to understand what business model works and what is our spikiness within that business model, right? And if I go back in time, if one thing I would have laid down a context of how this industry works, and to disrupt it, what do I need to cut out from the current framework and make it leaner for me to be successful? I would have done it that way. Unfortunately, didn't do it. And I would have over-indexed on talent from day one, which we've started doing in the last 3, 4 years. But I think we'd have started doing that much earlier on.
Okay. Okay. So if you had 10x the budget you have now, what would you spend it on?
I would not have 10x the budget, and I would not spend it on a lot of things. I think we're us Indians, we are known for Jugaad innovation, right? We are value engineers, right? If you look at Vande Bharat, or if you look at any other thing that we do, or what we're doing in the space technology, right? We don't need the budgets, that the larger, bigger countries with a lot of funding have, right? If you look at India also, we are so amazing on software is because you didn't need a ton of labs and facilities and all of that to create this ecosystem, right? We became a services nation because there was one laptop. Every guy on his laptop went and coded and learned coding, right? And we became a services industry. There were no large campuses, big budgets. So one, I would have not spent it. I would have taken a little bit money, value engineered, and not spent a lot of money doing random things, right? I would have focused and ensure that you're able to do something which is value engineered, jugaad innovation, and brought it to the market.
You do talk about Jugaad part, but when I hear your story, it is very arranged innovation that you have done. I mean, picking up the right market and all, but yeah.
Jugaad is actually a misunderstood word, right? Jugaad does not mean shortcut,
Cutting
right?
corners. Okay, okay, yeah.
Not about cutting corners, right? It is finding a way to innovate with limited budgets, right? And also
Okay.
तो जुगाड़ ना थोड़ा badly used
It's
term है या
हाँ,
misrepresented term है.
misrepresented.
या तो या आप ना जो कर रहे हो, राइट, उसके अंदर उसको और बेहतर कैसे कर सकते हो, बहुत एफिशिएंटली कैसे कर सकते हो, दैट्स द बिग वन एंड दैट्स द वे एटलीस्ट आई लुक एट इट.
If you were sitting next to a leading expert in your field, what would you ask them? Though we feel that you are the experts, but let's assume.
What would I ask them? So it depends on what walk of life, right? If it's a product guy, I would go a little more technical, understand what's in it for 3 years out, 5 years out. Or if I go to my mentor currently, I'm learning, in terms of my people skills. How do I improve my people skills, right? And how do I kind of create a culture where it's a self-driving culture, right? It's not a push culture, right? People are empowered and accountable at the same time, and that's something that I'm currently learning from somebody I know, and it's been really great help.
What is the biggest challenge the industry is facing today? In let's say
Yeah,
today or in future, what would be the challenges?
I think at least I'll be very specific about in the context of India, right? I think Indian companies and product companies per se, right? They have to ensure that they are innovating, because if you're trying to create a market out of relying on some external source or external supplier, that's not how it's going to work, right? You got to build some muscles yourself for you to walk that distance. And unless you do that, right, you're relying on a lot of variables to get your company going, right? Just imagine that you are sourcing a product, then you need to find the right supplier, the right quality with the right timelines, and the right pricing for it to work. Instead, if you're able to engineer your device so you know your cost, you know your quality, and you know how you're going to make it, right? That is where, that is the muscle that you need to build, right? So I think most Indian, at least in our space, are, think that, the right answer is just go somewhere and bring in a product. But we've seen like there's a graveyard of companies who've not been successful doing that. So I think ना वो थोड़ा सा change होना होगा, but I think it'll take some time.
Yeah, I mean, with this push of Made in India, maybe, and with your inputs, maybe some people can think more. Anything specific that you would want to suggest to people like us who are into after sales of, I mean, we do definitely give our best. We do work on, as you said, the budgets are tight for after sales. So we do work on tight budgets, but anything that you would specifically have for me or my team, anything we can, get
I think the only one soft skill I would say is, empathy, consumer and
towards the
empathy.
consumer.
If you're empathetic towards the consumer, you'll make sure that, your, services are better, right? When you
Right.
look at an account or an expense line or, just a transaction, I think that changes, right? But as soon as you have empathy, right? And as soon as you have empathy, I think you will solve the problem for the consumer. So I think that's a very, very big part. It's never spoken because हर चीज ना एक या तो एक presentation में चली जाती है और एक्सेल की एक नंबर लाइन बन जाती है, right? But the softer skill is super important. When I spoke about the company as a culture, right? How does it become itself, moving flywheel that people are able to deliver it as it's supposed to be a decentralized framework. Similarly, at your end, right? I mean, service partners need to be very empathetic, right? And once you're empathetic and you're able to solve a consumer problem, trust me, the consumer will love you back, right? The consumer always loves a great experience. And if you're able to give it to them, I think there's no taking away the consumer from you.
Absolutely. As a consumer, you would feel that, right? From an after sales, right? Right. Great. And what excites you the most about the accessories business, except the innovation, the tech? Is there something else?
Yeah,
Because
honestly,
what I heard, kept on hearing from you was a lot of technology that you have put in, a lot of innovation that you have done.
I think it's not about technology. It's not about anything. I think, we love building a product, right? And a product can be anything, right? As long as you're able to create a really good product with the consumer's love, right? That's what at least we aspire for. Until date, honestly, between Aman and me, I think if somebody is walking by, we'd be able to tell you whether it's a boat device or not, right? That is the eye that we have, and we have 800 SKUs. Yeah, so we'd be able to tell you. So that's how passionate we are about what we make. We are super, super. There's some words I can't use on your show, but super, super consumer focused, right? And that's super important, right? Whatever product you make, you have to be making it really well. So today we do audio, then we do smartwatches, and we might get into something else. But we'll make sure that we'll engineer the product in a way that it's loved by the consumers, and ensure that we build a multi-decadal company, and that's what at least what we've been aspiring for.
You did mention about a mentor that you go to. So how do you or why do you think a mentor is important?
I
And
think
I also feel a need of somebody, but I mean, how,
I
I
think
mean,
the
at times
person.
I think I'm super smart, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, everybody in the world thinks they're the smartest in the world, right? But वो एक fallacy है, ठीक है? There's so
Right.
much to learn, right? There's so much to learn. Every person you meet, you get to learn. So I don't think that's a journey that you should ever end, right? You will never be the smartest, and it can be anybody in the world, right? They all learn. They all have people that they go for advice to, and so do we, right? There are certain things about business which are hard. I mean, building a business by itself is a very, very hard thing, right? And in a country like India, where it's price sensitive, consumer is demanding, it's very, very hard. So when you're lost sometimes, or sometimes you don't have clarity around certain things, it's always good to lean on people who have done it, been there, done that, build large companies, who advise large boards, right? And they've gone through all of these journeys, right? Business is a up and down, right? It's a topsy turvy, right? And when the chips are down, there should be somebody who you can go to and take advice from, and learn from that, and apply that to your business.
Right. Great. Then coming to your little personal side. So how is Samir as a person? What does Samir
I
like
think
beyond
you
work
should,
front? Is there something beyond work front or is
there,
it
no,
only
there is a side to me beyond my work front for sure. Yeah, but you should be asking this question to my teams, and I think the answer is not something that even I want to hear. But No,
That's
I
why
think,
we asked that question.
yeah, yeah. No, so I think, yeah, I'm a workaholic. I work long hours. But I do end up, spending a lot of time at home with my family. I think family is very important to me. I know that's something that keeps me going. And besides that, I pick a sport. I play a sport, twice a week, and that's something that I look forward to every week, right? That's something that keeps me going. I love to read a lot, there's something that, is something, that I've developed over the years, and it kind of helps me get clarity, around me, my business, all of that. So yeah, these are the two things I essentially do. And yes, travel is a big part of life, I used to travel quite a bit. Of late, it's become less, but going out and just, not thinking about work sometimes, kind of brings in a lot of ideas, which, your in your daily operational bits, you kind of, miss out those, right? And just exposure around traveling around the world brings in a lot of things, right? Get to meet so many new people and get to learn so much. So, that kind of helps too.
So, what is your favorite destination?
My favorite destination is Amsterdam.
Oh,
I love that place, just going there.
is
It's
it
got a very
City of
good vibe.
Canals or something, right? It's called City
Sorry?
of Canals. It's called City of
Yes, City of
Canals.
Canals, yeah.
Yeah,
So it's one
beautiful.
of the best places that, I would go and, relax at. Yeah.
And what book would you take there? What's your favorite book?
So currently I'm reading a very interesting book called B 2.0. So being an entrepreneur.
BE
uh,
2.0.
it's a quite an interesting book. I think, people should read it. One of my favorite books in the past years have been, The Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. It's a very similar story of, how Aman and I started the business. And we never had the money to scale the business, but we did something or the other and kept scaling the business. So it's a very similar story. Of course, Nike is a much larger brand, but at least we are aspiring to becoming a small, I would say, not small, but at least be recognized as well as Nike is.
Are all best wishes for that. But if you were to write a book, what would be it about?
I wouldn't write a book for
You
sure.
wouldn't?
Yeah,
Okay.
I wouldn't
Just,
write a book. I
okay.
think I think I'd utilize that time to, go back and, make my business better and, spend more time with my family or play my game of paddle.
Okay. Right. Oh, paddle is a sport that you play. Cool. Okay. So, about the boat, brand boat. So one, of course, the name is little interesting, but
Yeah.
there is the when when you start writing it down, there is a capital A in between.
Yeah.
Quite intriguing. If you can share what it is all about.
So the A actually has a boat in it, right? If you see the A, the way it's been written, you'll see a small boat inside it, and that's boat, right? So when me and Aman were starting the brand, we were like, what do we do? And then, of course, we had three or four options, and then we went with boat because, one, it doesn't sound like a electronics brand, right? Which we wanted to stay away from. We wanted to create a lifestyle brand. And the other thing is when you are up on the sea, right? You're disconnected from land. You're like by yourself. You're plugged into nirvana. You're at peace, right? So, the connotation is, boat plug into nirvana. So whenever you put on a boat device and you hear music, you go into nirvana.
Amazing, amazing. What's your one big takeaway you want listeners to get from this episode?
Oh, choose the right service partners like RV.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh my God. I have it. I have it.
I think it's just one of the other things that I'll add is, think about how you can build, the right product, right? And building the right product in India for India, right? And taking it globally. Think about that, right? Retaining a large part of when you make a product, you're retaining a large part of that profit pool into our country. Whether vis-a-vis when we do services, we're just exporting services, but when you do product, not only manufacturing, right? The entire vertical scaling of product, that's when the true value lies. And, more Indian companies should aspire to being one of those.
And do all this with empathy. I remember that. Right.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Sameer. Thank you so much. It was really lovely talking to you. Of course, we have been working together, but this kind of conversation, I think I'm having for the first time with you, but it was amazing. Thank you so much, and so much to learn from this inspiring story of yours. Thank you so much.
Pleasure to be on the show, and thank you so much. Bye.
Really appreciate.